Hello, welcome back to my little motorhome channel. So I'm new to YouTube, as most of you know. I have a very successful TikTok account which grows from leaps and bounds, but I want to try and get into YouTube. So I wanted to do a video on to help people that have never travelled to Europe, newbies, giving you some ideas of not so much where to go, because I don't think you can plan all of that. I prefer just to go and enjoy it. You know, the whole thing about having a motorhome is you make memories. And I think the less organised, the better. I don't like putting pressure on to have to get somewhere because you've booked into a campsite or into whatever. So I wanted to do a video on some of the things that you need to take into consideration if you're going to Europe. So obviously in different countries there are different rules, and it's always worth just jumping on the government websites and having a look at what the different rules are and the different driving rules. I'm not going to go into all of that because I don't know all of it. But what I do know is we've been doing this for over 10 years. Social media is very new to us. So a little introduction about us. I'm John, my wife's Jenny, and Jack is our little dog who goes everywhere with us. So the first couple of things that you need to know if you are going to travel with a pet, you either need to get a pet passport, which you can do in Ireland, but you can't do in the UK at the moment. But the rules are apparently changing. The rumours are that the animal health certificate, which is what you need at the moment, are going to go back to passports. But at the moment, it's only a rumour. Online about it, but no one's 100% sure what's going to happen. So an animal health certificate is only valid for 3 months, and you need one every time you travel. Now the problem with them is the vets are being, how can I put this? I'm going to say, well, money grabbers, shall we say. Some of them are charging you. There's a guy online that does them for about 90 quid. Our particular vet, our local vet, charges £240. So every time we travelled, it was that price. Now, we have a pet passport now that we sorted out when we were in Spain. The Spanish tend to be a little bit more lenient about doing it for you. The reason why the French don't really like doing it because you have to give an address. So the vet that we go to in Spain, in Benidorm, put it down that Jack lives on the campsite, so that's how we got around it. And the rabies jab that he's got now, he's had his booster, so it's 3 years, so we don't have to pay again. The only thing we have to do when you're travelling back to the UK is 5 days before you get back into the UK, he has to be wormed and he has to be checked by a vet to say that he's all healthy and well, which we do. Now, some of the other things that people don't realise that you are supposed to carry. So in Europe, you are supposed to carry spare bulbs, spare fuses, high-vis jackets. So high-vis jackets for as many people are in the vehicle. So there's 4 of you in the vehicle, you have to carry 4 high-vis. You have to carry a warning triangle. Now, in France, it's 1 warning triangle. In Spain, it's 2. But Spain are changing the rules and they're bringing out these LED flashing orange lights. But the ones that you get in Spain specifically have a SIM card in them and they will actually transmit to say where you are. Now, because we don't live in Spain, we don't actually need that. You can just get an orange flashing light. Because obviously the ones with the SIM card, you have to pay yearly for them. Because we're not Spanish residents, we don't have to have that. We can just have the orange light or the triangle for now. How that's going to change, I'm not really sure. You need beam deflectors on your headlights. Now, some people say, yeah, but I never drive at night. But when you're going through the tunnels in Spain, it is the law that you have to put your headlights on, and there's a sign at the front of the tunnel and there's a sign at the other end of the tunnel. And that's why you have to put the beam deflectors on even if you're not driving at night. That's about it. Oh, you also have to have a UK, not GB anymore, UK sticker on the back of the van. You only need one. Some people are saying you need it on the front as well. No, The law says just on the back. So the other thing that I think, the other thing in France is angle mortar. Now, angle mortar is for blind spot, and anything that's over 3.5 tonne, it's a legal requirement to have them on. So we have one on the back and we have one on each of the front doors. Now, our motorhome is obviously the Fiat Ducato, so we can put the magnetic ones on the front door, but on the rear we have to have a stick-on one. Now, don't panic about putting the stick-on one on, because if you use a hot air gun, you can get them off very, very easily. They don't leave residue. Just give them a little bit of a polish afterwards. That's what we do. The other thing that you get is a citric air sticker, which is basically low emissions. Now, to get one of these, you can go onto the French website, and only go on the French website. Don't use an English one that says it can do it for you. They're not expensive. I think off the top of my head, they're about €5. The hardest part, when you go onto the French website, you can press the button in the top right-hand corner and it will change the language into English. Now, the only thing about them is you have to send them a copy of your logbook in a PDF file. But the PDF file is the hardest bit, because you've got to get it below a certain amount of resolution. So the file is a smaller file, as in how many megabytes it is. That's the hardest bit. But I found if you do it in black and white, you can get it below their limit. Otherwise, it won't accept it. I've had it before where I've tried applying for it and it kept crashing. Turned out there was a fault with their website. Tried it 3 or 4 days later, it went through. They send it to you in the post. Now, there is a rule about the citric air sticker that I have seen several people do wrongly. It has to go in the right bottom corner of the windscreen. So a lot of people fit them on the left because that's where we used to put our tax discs. No. Because France is a left-hand drive vehicle, it has to go on the right-hand side of your windscreen. So when you're sitting in your vehicle, it should be by the steering wheel in the bottom right-hand corner. That is very important. And we have had ours checked several times, and the police automatically look at that corner. So just to warn you. So the next thing that I think a lot of people don't realise is gas. So when you're in Europe, you can't buy colour gas bottles, which is what we have in England. So an LPG refillable system, if you're going to be travelling for longer time and you want to do more off-grid free camping, gas I think is quite important. So you can get, there's two types. You can get gas it or gas low. I'm not associated with either of them, but they're the systems that are the most commonly found in the UK. Now, if you're doing a van conversion, gas it, do an underslung tank. Now, with the underslung tanks, three things actually. One, it takes up far less room inside the vehicle. And obviously in a van conversion, that's the most imperative thing, is space. You can get an electric cut-off switch for them, because if you use the Eurotunnel, you have to prove that your gas is off. Now, I always fit that switch somewhere, because I have fitted the tanks. I always fit that switch somewhere where it's easy to get to. So you just press the switch and you can actually hear the valve shut off. Now, the reason why I say that is, when you go on the Eurotunnel, they actually check that your gas is off. Now, I have seen van conversions being stopped by the tunnel authorities, and they'll make them turn their hob on to prove there's no gas. The other thing with an underslung tank, and this is very, very important, when you order the kit online, and they make kits for most of the common van conversion vans, so Fiat Ducatos, Merc Sprinter, that sort of thing, they'll offer you a can of underseal to coat the tank once it's fitted. It is very imperative that you do this, because I've actually changed 3 tanks where they've rusted out, because obviously they're underneath the vehicle, so they're getting road salt, water, everything flicked up onto them. So putting the underseal in is very important. There is another point about the gas as well. These are something that's come up recently, watching other videos and watching other creators. Two things. One, in Italy, it is against the law to fill up LPG at a petrol station for cooking or heating. And there's a couple that are out there at the moment. They pulled into one of the services on the motorway and they refused to fill them because it's against the law. And the guys in the garage were pointing up at the CCTV to say, we're being filmed, we can't do it. But what this couple found was if you find one of the little smaller garages off the beaten track that sells LPG, they'll more than likely fill you up because that's how they got some. But the other thing that popped up the other day with another couple that are travelling, they bought the safety fill bottles. So they're the bottles where you actually fill the bottle rather than it being a fixed system like Gasset or Gaslight. And in France, no one would touch it. None of the garages would put LPG in it. They found a place in Spain in the end that would. So it's just a little thing that you're going to cut corners by saving a little bit of money, but it might be better for you to have a proper refillable LPG system fitted. The other thing is, and this is something that's come up because I fit them as well, if you're having it fitted, tell them that you don't want the filler point put inside a cupboard. So if it's inside your gas cupboard, they don't like it out in Europe. It's okay in the UK because most of the time the pumps are where you can't really see them and no one says anything. But abroad, they don't like it. Now, a little tip for when you're filling LPG, turn the bottles off. Turn the bottles off before you start filling. It could possibly pressurise the system too much because it has to pressurise the system. So I would advise turning the bottles off, which is what I do. Important. So just a little thing. So the next thing, so that's angled mortar, that's citric air, right? So the next thing, and I think this is probably, if you're travelling in Europe, I think this is probably without doubt the most important thing that you need to get is a really, really good satnav. Don't rely on your phones. Yes, I know you can buy programs that you can put onto a phone. They're not as good. So I recommend, and it is my opinion, I recommend the TomTom Go camper. It seems to do everything. You can put your weights, your height, your length in. The weights is very important because in France there's a lot of roads where it's a 3.5 ton limit. Obviously our motorhome weighs 5 ton. We're not allowed down them. So the satnav will automatically reroute you. But the new TomTom camper has a facility on it which is really, really good. So one, it will tell you, when you buy them, they come with a 2-year subscription for speed cameras and fuel prices. Now, fuel prices, you think, oh, why would I want to know the fuel prices? You will see when you're in France. And actually, someone messaged me on my TikTok account the other day. On the motorway, unleaded petrol was $2.88 a litre. Whereas if you go to a supermarket, you could get it for $1.60. That's the difference. So you can actually see the price of the fuel before you get there and you can decide whether you want to go to that one. Or if you can see that there's a petrol station that's just off the motorway, it's far, far. One of the other things that you need to take or you need to have, in Spain, it is a legal requirement for you'll see them on the back of vehicles, the white board with red lines on it with 4 reflectors in each corner. These are for anything that sticks out further than the bumper. So if you've got bikes on the back, you have to have one on it. If you've got a trailer on, you have to have one on. If you've got a box on the back of your motorhome or van conversion or whatever, you have to have one on. Anything that sticks out further than the bumper. Now, the weird thing is, it's also a legal requirement in Italy. But in Italy, it has to be metal. In Spain, it can just be plastic. I'll put them in the shop too so you can see what I mean. But they are a legal requirement. So just be aware of that if you've got bikes on the back of your motorhome on a cycle rack or whatever. The other thing that So I've got an Amazon account, but I can't link it to this yet because you have to have so many followers before you're allowed to start advertising things. I'll try and put it in the link at the bottom, my Amazon link to my shop. If you go on my shop, there's an item, there's a section listed motorhome accessories, and on there's all the little things some of the things that you don't think of. And one of them is duct tape. Now everyone says if you've got duct tape and zip ties, you can fix anything. But the thing about the duct tape that I've put on there is it's white. So if you do inadvertently clip the rear end, which is very, very common because I've done it a couple of times on my own, and you need to just do a quick repair, it doesn't look as sore as the big black stuff. And it does hold for while you're driving, and it is pretty waterproof. So if you stick it on, the only reason I ever used it was we were being watched onto a pitch by the guy that worked there, and he reversed us into a tree because he wasn't looking up, and it put a tiny little hole right in the top corner. So I got some white gaffer tape, put it over it, job done until I got home, and then I had it repaired. So just a little bit of thing. So there's the thing. That's about it really. They're the sort of main things that I think people need to remember if you've never been to Europe before. So this is more for like the newbies out there. I'm starting to get a bit of traction on YouTube, and if you could subscribe and you could do a couple of likes, that would be fantastic. It doesn't cost you anything, but it really helps boost our channel. And the more I can get out there, and I'm always open to giving advice. If you've got any questions, please, please, please drop them in the comments. I don't bite, and something that I've said on my TikTok account, which people really resonate with, no question is stupid. If you want to ask a question and you think, oh, he's going to think I'm stupid for asking this, I won't. There is no such thing as a stupid question. There were things when we first started going that I didn't know, and I just did my research on it. But now, because of social media, it's far easier to just jump on social media and have a look, and somebody will tell you the answer. Anyway, I always start my videos off the same. I'll see you all in the next one. Ta-ra!